It's important for you to have this perspective so that when you see where it is that we're heading, you'll have a better frame of reference for it. So let's take a look back now. I started the company in 2002 and took 2 years to do clinical studies, set up manufacturing, look for how were we going to market this technology. And then in 2004, we went to market with energy enhancers. That was our very first product. Now, that means last month was 20 years for me with this company. So, sometimes when we're getting leaders, new leaders that are coming in, there's like, well, how do I know, you're not going to sell the business and, you're going to be a long-term opportunity. This is my life. This is who I am. And I want to be doing this 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. But we got to reverse aging to do that, right? So that's the whole point. But we had a phenomenal start to the business with Energy Enhancer. And then we began to introduce some new products. And this was all about improving lifestyle. So let's give people a natural way to improve their energy, relieve their pain, and have them get a better night's sleep. That was all the initial few years with the company. Then, as I began to work with the technology and develop new things, I found out one of the really cool things that you could do is cause the body, signal it with light, to cause the synthesis of peptides. Now, this is incredibly important because it means it opens up potentially thousands of different applications for the patch technology. But we started with things that were very simple peptides. Glutathione is a tripeptide. Carnosine is a dipeptide. Eon elevates a peptide in the liver that produces a relaxation response in the nervous system. So now we had moved into the generation of our company where it was all about anti-aging. So we know that lifespan is correlated to your glutathione levels for very good reasons. Carnosine, this is maybe one of the most underrated nutrients out there. We showed in our clinical studies that carnosine would improve cognitive function, improve strength and stamina. It supports the health of the heart. And in separate studies, carnosine has been shown to protect the telomeres. So in studies that are done with mammals, with mice and rats, you get a 30 to 40% increase in lifespan. And in those rodent studies, the animals never age until the very end of their life. So we have a very practical example going back to research in the early 2000s of how supplementing with a simple nutrient can have an enormous impact on quality of life and also extend life. So that was how we got into anti-aging. Of course, there was a 10-year period where we were doing a tremendous amount of research. We generated 80 patents now in the field of stem cells and regeneration. These patents are all over the world. And we introduced in 2018 X39. So we entered the stem cell industry. So this is very important, right? Because being able to have technology that will support faster healing is a very, very important part of age reversal, meaning we don't want to end up in a situation 20 years from now where somebody gets into an accident and they have severe injuries and they can't recover, right? So it's not going to do any good to have technology that keeps us young for a very long period of time if we don't have technology that helps us heal faster, right? So this is a very, very important part of that overall picture. And the other thing about X39, probably the most important part, for the sake of marketing, we're focusing on stem cell activity. But actually, the power of copper peptide is that it resets about 1/3 of the human genome to a younger, healthier state. There was research that was done at Harvard, and we have a video actually that we're going to play on this later, where they took thousands of peptides and they screened them for anti-aging effects, and GHKCU was right at the top in terms of one of the most powerful molecules for being able to have a healthy effect on gene expression. So actually, when we were getting into the stem cell industry, this was our first step into age reversal. So this is why you see some of these testimonials that people use the product for a few months and they look much, much younger. It's because physically their gene expression, their epigenetics are changing, being flipped to a more youthful state. This is making the stem cells more active, and this is what can mobilize these stem cells and increase the number of stem cells in the body, supporting healing. So that's what it looked like back then. Where do we go from here? And what type of technology are we developing in our lab to make age reversal a reality? Now, an important part of this, so we have a frame of reference, is that age reversal is something that is definitely mainstream today. If we went back 20 years, age reversal was still in the realm of science fiction, right? Mainstream scientists thought, well, we're born, we age, we die, and that's a one-way street, and there's really nothing we can do about that. And interestingly, scientists did not discuss things like parabiosis, meaning if you take the blood from someone that's young and you give it to someone older, that older person starts to experience some of the things that we see in someone younger. So there's factors that are in the blood that can make the cells act like younger, healthier cells. So eventually, these concepts were accepted, and today, there are billions of dollars being spent by huge institutions and companies to deliver products like drugs to the market that can reverse human aging. So this is going to be a theme now that we're going to continue to see, and it's a reality in our lifetime. So another important frame of reference is that nature already has species that have defeated aging. And this is so important because it means that we don't have to violate the laws of nature. Mankind has an awful history about creating technology that violates the laws of nature, right? Most of you got here in an automobile. I would say an engine in an automobile does not comply with the laws of nature. Doesn't violate physics, okay? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, why would we create engines that are 17% efficient, throw most of the excess energy out into the environment as heat, and pollute our planet in the process? I'll have more on that later. Just as a thought. And, even worse, we're taking carbon that's in the ground and we're putting it into the atmosphere. That's a pretty bad idea. When nature does things, it does things incredibly efficient and also in harmony with the planet. And this is what we want to do. We want to have in our generation technology that is in harmony with the planet. So in looking at this, the type of things that we'll study are lobsters, ants, planaria, hydractinia. We look at organisms that either do not age at all or who have in some way defeated the aging process. So one of the species that I've studied is temnothorax ant. And in ants, what's so interesting is that the queen ant can live 5 to 6 times longer than the worker ant, yet their genetics are almost identical. So what is the reason for this? Bees are very similar. And the queen bee is going to live 50 to 60 times longer than a worker. So we should be able to determine what those differences are, since they're very, very minor, and we should be able to implement that with human beings. So, imagine if we did moderately well and we could extend human life 5 to 6 times. I think most of us would be pretty happy with a lifespan of 500 or 600 years, right? And not aging in the process. Now, what's interesting about the temnothorax ants, so we got these ants into our lab, and we wanted to start a series of experiments, which were successful. And what's interesting about this ant is that it can get infected by a parasite, which will change its gene expression, and the mechanism of action is known. The parasite will, in order to survive, will upregulate mitochondrial function in the ant, and this flips the gene expression in the ant so it doesn't age. So here we have a very good model that supports the idea that if we enhance the function of the mitochondria, we can extend human life. That's at least the hope, right? And it's not anything trivial. We're talking about not 20 or 30% improvement, but 5 to 6 time increase in lifespan. So the big question is, could it work in human beings? Do we have any other examples that we could look at to say, yeah, this might be possible? Well, of course, first example that we'll use, and a man that I think should win a Nobel Prize, is Dr. Lauren Picard. Dr. Picard has put in 50 years to doing clinical studies into GHKCU. So the great body of knowledge that we have today as to how this peptide works and the effects on the human body are because of the work that Dr. Picard did. And it's a shame that he's gone unrecognized, but it's very fortunate for us that we have a product that benefits from this, and we really have the only effective product in the world for elevating copper peptide. Second example of this that goes back to the 90s, very simple. This is the combination of an amino acid, acetyl L-carnitine, with an antioxidant, alpha-lipoic acid. And it was discovered by Dr. Ames that if you put these nutrients into solution in a culture of older cells, those older cells would start to behave like younger, healthier cells. And no surprise, it was because these nutrients have a beneficial effect on mitochondrial function. Now, oxytocin is known as the hormone of love or of bonding. And so people that are in loving relationships have naturally elevated levels of oxytocin. And a very important thing about oxytocin is that it has a significant impact on aging. Namely, you can create a culture, in this case of muscle tissue, and expose it to a solution of oxytocin, and the muscle tissue will revert to younger, healthier tissue. So here we have a very powerful example for you men that aren't in loving relationships. Stop playing around, commit to your significant other, get into a loving relationship. As an alternative, somebody could invent a product that elevates oxytocin. It yet remains to be seen if that will happen. Hint. We, of course, have David Sinclair, and his main focus And the focus at Harvard and Stanford is on elevating NAD. Of course, NAD is a powerful energy-carrying molecule in the mitochondria. And again, it's been shown that when you use this molecule, it can improve mitochondrial function and have a beneficial effect on gene expression. There's a few points where I would disagree with some of the outcomes of what they think will happen with this, but nevertheless, I'm not downplaying the importance of NAD. And then I mentioned parabiosis. And there's any number of different peptides in the blood that can have an effect in terms of regenerating the cells. GDF11 is one of them. There's growth hormone, testosterone, there's many others. But what was interesting is that when companies started to go to market to harvest the blood from people that were young and healthy so that people that were older that had the money could buy that young blood and benefit from it, the FDA came in and said, no, we don't want you doing that. It's odd to me, given that blood donations happen all the time. So why would the FDA not want people to be young and healthy? I'll let you draw your own conclusions. Okay, so these examples show us that aging is not inevitable. There are things that we can do to alter the way that we age and hopefully reach our goal of staying young and healthy as long as we want. And if we're older, reverse the aging process and recapture our youth. So have we seen any evidence of this in anything that we've done? As a matter of fact, we have. So the first thing we'll talk about is telomere research. And we have worked with a very well-known medical doctor. We've done this work over a 3-year period of time. We use a test from a company called Repeat Diagnostics, which clinically is considered a gold standard for telomere testing. We've worked now with over 50 people in these tests over these years, and we found some pretty extraordinary things. Oh, let me go back. There we go. We found that consistently we could lengthen the telomeres, and if you're interested in doing this, you take a baseline and then you take another measurement at 6 months. We tried doing blood draws at 3 months and we didn't see any change. But when you had a minimum of 6 months, that's where you began to see the telomere lengthening. And then again, there were effects at 1 year out. So we did these studies with blood draws at baseline, 6 months, and 12 months. And we found that in as little as 6 months, we could get enough telomere lengthening to that's equivalent of 8.5 years of age reversal. So this is a very significant impact. The other thing about this is that there are many different factors when it comes to aging. So telomeres, lengthening them, can protect our health. They can increase the number of times that our cells divide, meaning we can increase our lifespan, but we need to do other things. We need to get rid of the cells that are dead, that hang around, that cause oxidative inflammatory stress. We need to manage inflammatory stress. We need to have a healthy diet. We need to exercise. So there's many things that we need to do if we're going to defeat aging. But certainly telomere lengthening is an incredibly important